Gentlemen, we are just minutes away from Cup Series practice and qualifying at the Kansas Speedway for this weekend's NASCAR Cup Series event in the running of the Hollywood Casino 400. So, with practice about to begin here very shortly, about 3 minutes or so from now, 105 Eastern, I think, is when the trial will start, and then obviously following that we will have qualifying all on this stream for you right here on KRC. Our Xfinity Series race coverage still set to go at 4 p.m. Eastern later this afternoon as well. Also taking place at the Kansas Speedway. Practice and qualifying for the Xfinity Series just wrapped up within the last hour. So now it is the Cup Series turn to hit the racetrack for the first time here this weekend. So can't wait to see what this race will bring. An instant classic in the Kansas race earlier this spring, having the closest finish in NASCAR Cup Series history. And that'll be tough to top. But with the playoffs at stake in the beginning of the round of 12, it is going to be a different race, to say the least, for points paying purposes. And we'll have to see which driver will take their next step into potentially winning the championship come November. As far as practice goes, of course, two 20-minute sessions. Group A, Group B. Field will be split in half for each group, and they will qualify in that same respected group when qualifying begins as well, where the top five from each group will advance to the final round of qualifying as well. Rain around most of the country following the hurricane that hit the south in the United States, but as far as Kansas City, Kansas is concerned, the rain is a few hours to the east, so no rain in the forecast for any of this weekend's events. Truck Series went smoothly last night. Crazy finish there. Fuel mileage. Congratulations to Corey Heim getting his sixth win on the season. A last lap pass for the win with that fuel mileage run to the checker in the final 51 laps of a green flag race there. Only one caution per incident, so pretty quiet one. We'll have to see what the Xfinity and Cup Series will do here this weekend as well. We don't have the full list of drivers in Group A practice quite yet. When that does happen, you guys will obviously get to see that on our live leaderboard. And as far as the point standings go, we will take a look at that in a little bit. I'll wait until we get through the end of Group A practice, so that way as soon as the cars hit the track, you'll get to listen in to the actual broadcast. And if you're wondering visually where you can watch this, this is taking place on the NBC Sports app today. So USA Network not covering practice and qualifying for the Cup Series here this afternoon. Again, it will be practice and qualifying on the NBC Sports app. I guess while we're waiting on guys to hit the racetrack here for the first time, I guess we will go over the point standings. He's got a little bit of time to kill. Kyle Larson comes in as the number one seed yet again, following a dominating performance at Bristol, getting 7 playoff points, winning both stages and the race. He is now 39 points above the cut line. Of course, he was in trouble in the first round, or at least seemingly by way of the points based off the first two races not having top tens, but a huge bounce back performance there. Didn't need to go out and do that to advance to the next round, but that certainly helps because now he's got those 7 extra points by the time this round begins. So again, 39 points look good for Kyle Larson. Christopher Bell plus 24 points is the number 2 seed. Number 3 seed for regular season champion Tyler Reddick. He is plus 20 points above the cutoff line. William Byron plus 14. Plus 11 for Ryan Blaney. Denny Hamlin plus 7, plus 6 for Chase Elliott. And Joey Logano plus 4 is the final driver above the cut line when we begin this round of 12 tomorrow. He is in the 8th seed. Austin Cindric, his teammate, is the first driver out at minus 4 points. Daniel Suarez minus 6. Minus 7 for Alex Bowman and Chase Briscoe. Practice is now beginning again on the NBC Sports app. For those of you wondering where you could watch, well, obviously you can listen live right here on KRC.
What did he do? He came out and showed everybody why he deserves it. But you said it, Steve. That's all great work in the first round. Now the second round starts, and it's like a whole finish season.
You guys were busy with the Xfinity Series practice and qualifying. I spent some time with Alex this morning, with his crew chief, Blake Harris, and George Spencer, the chief engineer. And I said, fellas, when was the click moment? When did you click into this playoff form? They said, well, we kind of felt like we had some great mojo earlier in the year in May and June, which vaulted us to that speed and that win in Chicago. And we feel like we're back in that momentum or that phase. Does that make sense to you now, Steve? Like, how they're racing and how he's driving. And he said, look, it's hard to have fun in the Cup Series because it's so intense, but I'm enjoying this spell that we're in at the moment.
I think that's what you have to do. I agree, and it's hard to have fun when there is this much pressure. but you have to just want the pressure. You know, I think it's Chase Elliott always says it's a privilege to race under this much pressure. And I think that's what the 48 team has done. All of that stuff you talk about, Jeff, job being on the line and all these question marks, I think it's galvanized this team a little bit. I think this organization, Blake Harris-led organization, kind of got the troops together and said, guys, we can only worry about us and what we're doing. Let's be the best version of ourselves. And that's what Alex Bowman and the 48 team for sure did in that first round. Look at this, first, second, Trackhouse, speed, Chastain and Suarez top of the board. Bowman, Ty Gibbs, who one of those drivers who's now out of the playoffs, now just bumped down to fifth.
Well, while Bowman is the only one out of the 16 who never had an issue in the first round of the playoffs, it's also a positive story for one of his three other Hendrick Motorsports teammates, Chase Elliott, Jeff, coming off a really good Bristol. He's kind of like he was the quiet achiever there. He was just sneaking his way through the field, had a great runner-up spot, and he is right in the thick of this.
Well, he's had a very quiet run to this championship for sure, and that's not all bad. I think certainly this team wants a little more speed. They need a little more speed, but from a consistency standpoint, from an experience standpoint, this team could get hot, and this team could be a threat. Now, they've got to find some speed in my eyes if they want to contend for a championship, but at the same token, I think they're capable. I agree with your assessment, but the question is when. And I don't think this is the round where they have to find the speed yet. I think with Talladega and the Roval, I think if you can run top five here and you can survive Talladega, that's enough. In that round of 8, Jeff, I think they have to have that speed you kind of alluded to, which isn't far off.
What do you do here, Jeff, as a driver? We know that the wall runs and that high line is preferred here at Kansas, but early in this session, you're going to utilize your 20 minutes of practice. Do you go high first, get a feel for the car, and then work your way down and see, or try and tag in behind somebody else and see if it works on that lower line? What would you do as a driver here in this session?
You're going to see these guys qualify on the top. You're going to see every lap they run, they're going to try to run on the top. There's just more grip up there. So your majority of the time, they're going to run at the top of the racetrack. However, at some point, tomorrow, you're going to have to run the middle. You're going to have to run the bottom. You're going to have to pass somebody. You're going to have to do something different. So even though I know the top's better, at some point, I'm going to find myself to the bottom. I need to understand what my car does down there. I don't need to learn that tomorrow. I need to learn that now because I need to tell my crew chief and my engineers, okay, this is what I got on the top. But on the bottom, I'm going to need this. But for right now, you're trying to learn your race car, and I just think you want to be just up against the boards.
Time to say good afternoon to Kim Kuhn. Hey, Kim.
Hey, Lee, and as you guys are talking about running the high line here, and we're looking at Denny Hamlin, I asked him what his strength is here at Kansas, because he called it one of his best racetracks, and he said, I can run the same time in multiple lanes. He said, their car always tends to have versatility here. He noted most everyone can run the top lane fast, but what can they do in the other groups? And that's where he feels like the strength is. But after the first round, he also said, we have to be on offense from the start of this practice through this entire round.
This is one of Denny Hamlin's best tracks, as Kim mentioned. Let's take you back in time and back to quite a controversial moment up against Kyle Larson. Check this out. Hard racing, good hard racing. Might not call it good if you're a Larson fan, but if you're a Hamlin fan, you like that moment. And Denny slips through and goes on to take victory. Now, to that point, keeping that in mind and keeping the early part of this 2024 season in mind, Steve, of late, we have not seen the 11 and the 5 close together on track and racing hard in these playoffs.
Yeah, we've kind of just lacked that head-to-head battle that has become so familiar. I think this is the stage where we can easily see it again. You see on the bottom, Kyle Larson looking on. He's in the second group, and we'll see practice in just a little bit. I think they're both, Larson kind of put his name on the top with that dominant win a week ago at Bristol. For Denny Hamlin, he's looking for anything but what happened in that first round. While he was able to advance, and he did it with a solid run at Bristol, the first 2 races were kind of messy. I think this 11 car is looking to go more on the offense.
Jeff, what about last week for Daniel Suarez? It was a matter of survival in the points. They knew right from when they rolled off that they did not have the speed of Bristol Motor Speedway, and he snuck into the round of 12 by his chinny chin chin. just got there.
He did, but it goes back to the work that they did in the first two races. They had a really good start to the round that built him enough of a cushion where they could have that kind of day. And at the same token, you know, that's not how you want to do it. It certainly exposed some weaknesses that they have and that they got to go to work on. And Cam unloaded here with good speed. I'm not their lap 11 speed isn't what it needs to be compared to some others, but good speed taken off. But you hate to advance like that because you kind of had to play defense all night. And, to run 30th all night is certainly not confidence building, but they got to know what they needed to get done.
Let's remind you on what the first round of the playoffs looked like for this guy. He got that brilliant runner-up in Atlanta. He rallied to 13th at Watkins Glen, and it was a wild night in Bristol, Steve.
A wild night just because the 99 didn't have the pace. Fired back, laps down most of the night. He had to fight for every position. The normally cordial Daniel Suarez couldn't be cordial. He had no choice but to battle, and in the end, I would say performed well enough. / got a little lucky because the 19 and the 54, the two Dale Gibbs cars that had a chance of eliminating the 99, had their own issues, both actually speeding on pit road. And I agree, Jeff. Sorry, Lee. I was going to say I'm looking at the lap times here, Jeff, and I think he's good for the first 3 or 4 laps, but then from about lap 5 on, if I look at who I think is the best, which is the 9:48.11, it looks like Suarez needs 10th and a half, 2 tenths to their lap times.
Ty Gibbs in the Monster Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing was one of those 4 drivers eliminated last Saturday night, and he kind of was biting his tongue post-race. The most he could get out was unfortunate. Frustrated by the way things went down, but he did put his hand up, Jim, and he said, the speeding penalty on pit road, that was on me. That was my fault, and kind of coincidentally, ironically almost, it was also the same thing that brought his teammate at JGR, Martin Truex Jr., undone.
Well, certainly this hampered their opportunity to be successful. However, they did get their track position back. He did a great job of driving the car back and getting some of that track position, if not all of it, and then late in the race, they just weren't good enough. They were, a few points away, Steve, from getting done what they needed to get done, and then they started falling speed. So, yeah, the penalty hurt them for sure, but getting away from them late in the race, I think, was even larger than just a penalty.
Jeff, and to that point, you talk about it getting away from him at the end of that Bristol race. He had used up that right rear. And talking with Chris Gale throughout the course of the weekend, that was something that they had tried to instill in him, managing those tires over the run. So yes, the speeding penalty put them behind, but ultimately it was the collective race that just wasn't good enough. This team, though, still looking for a win this season. Ty Gibbs has been close to that first Cup Series win. And Chris Gale telling me that is their absolute number one priority, is winning before the end of the season. And that was going to be the case in or out of the playoffs. He said if we were still in the playoffs, we were not going to win a championship without winning a race. So that is still the number one goal right now. Ty, the team telling him to use less break in 1 and 2. They're giving him information. That is what his teammates are doing, trying to instruct him on how best to get around this racetrack.
Just over the halfway mark through this first group and this first portion of practice at Kansas Speedway as we pick up the Kubota Chevy for Trackhouse. And this is Ross Chastain, who has really pieced together some good results of late. Yes, not in the playoffs like his teammate Daniel Suarez, but last 4 races have yielded 3 top 10s, 2 of them being top 5s. He's on a nice run at the moment.
Well, look, I think this team, we all had super high expectations coming into this year, and not the year they wanted, I think by any means, but they haven't quit, and we have seen some speed from them lately, and they have been making improvements, and that's really, for this team, that's what the rest of this year is about, is what can we do to help the 99 car, and the biggest thing you can do is help them develop faster cars, right? The faster the 99 car is, the better chance he has of making the next round of playoffs, and this one car, in my eyes, has been better the last several weeks. Tyler Reddick. He made a little bit shorter run. I'm not sure what he was battling, but he ran just a few laps and came to pit road, giving us a great look right here with this Toyota on board on the spoiler cam. We wait till we get about 30 laps on the tires on Sunday afternoon, and you're going to see as close to the wall as you want to look. That's a great example, right? Not following in the 48's tire tracks, trying to get that pressure air. Once again, pressure tires on the 48. The 48 working lap 21, the 45 working.
Like I said last week at Bristol, it was solid. We got the most we could out of it. It wasn't great. We avoided a disaster, most importantly, and we were kind of, when we qualified, we were kind of stuck. And Jeff, you and Steve used that phrase a lot last week. It was difficult to progress and to push forward.
Yeah, it really was. You can see right here, he's a little stuck behind Bowman, right? Steve explained how much more laps the 48 has, but still right here in the middle of the corner, he can drive to the bottom or the middle. He just drives away from it. And that's what's so difficult about making passes at this racetrack. And when that top gets fired off and it's just better than everywhere else, how do you make these passes? So that's where qualifying, pit stops, everything you can do to get track position, that's why it matters so much, Gil.
Yeah, and as we look at Chase Elliott on pit road, he thinks he is down a cylinder. That car sounding a little bit sour when he brought it down pit road, so not a good start to the first race of this round, but better to find something early than in the middle of the race.
Yeah, the challenge will be that if they do have an engine issue, we won't be able to qualify, and they'll have to start at the back. Just talk about how hard it is to work your way through traffic. Just trying to listen in. I can't tell how it sounds. Really, the computer is what matters anymore, right? It's no different than bringing your car to the dealership. Yep. You got a warning light on the dash? Yeah, that's basically what happens. That's right.
How about this guy talking about momentum and good results? Carson Hocevar in the 77 for Spire Motorsports. We continue to mention the positive momentum for this group as a racing organization. Yes, there's a little different look because Justin Haley is in the 7th this week and will be for the remainder of the season and going forward into the new racing year as Corey LaJoy has done that seat swap, so to speak. He's over at Rickware Racing, but Hocevar continues to impress with each and every race in this 2024 season.
Yeah, Hocevar and the entire organization. Cars are faster. Drivers doing a nice job. Hocevar has a couple starts here at Kansas. He finished 20th in this race basically a year ago, and I think it would not shock me or even the garage if this 77 is able to improve that effort.
He leads the Rookie of the Year standings by some 56 points. He's had a top 3 finish. He started on the front row. He qualified well last week as well. As we go to William Byron, who really feels, Jeff, that a good result could come here at Kansas.
Well, this team has reason to be confident. You know, they can get themselves to Phoenix. They'll have a real shot. I really believe their maturity, the ability to take everything they've learned in these last 2 championship battles and apply it. I just think this team becomes more and more dangerous as these playoffs go along. And William has the capability of having kind of those Jimmy Johnson type days where he just is faster than you, right? And I think this team has the ability, but you got to put it together. The same way we talked about the 9's Chase Elliott. You can have the ability, but what matters now in the playoffs is the results. We won 3 of the first 8 races of the season. So that's that streakiness that Jeff talked about with him. You know, if the 24 runs like they did in the summer, I'm concerned. If the 24 runs like they did in the spring of the year, then I feel very confident. I just not sure which 24 we're going to get every week.
There's been a lot of talk about how the drivers and crew chiefs approach each and every race within the playoffs, whether it be in the opening round, which is now done. We're in the round of 12, the second phase. And William Byron said earlier this week on Sirius XM NASCAR that, look, yes, I do have some points in mind, right, like every other driver does. But he said, how about we approach Kansas like go out there and have a good day? And if you go out there and have a good day, then the points, you know, as a consequence, not a consequence, as a product of that, a byproduct of having a good day, you got to accumulate those points naturally. So I'm focused on the bigger picture, and let's get our car to roll off well. He has got good 10-lap average pace at the moment. He's the best in the field on 10-lap average. So we'll see what kind of a weekend it's going to be for William Byron in the 24 series.
He's got about 10 laps less tires than the 11 car in front of him. You see him hunting down. 16 car Ty Dillon.
And some news this morning that you may have seen. This man here, we're going to see around a whole lot more next year. And he will be behind the wheel of the 31 for the 2025 season.
The 10.
It'll be the number 10. So the 31 of Daniel Hemrick.
Yeah, it'll be a rebadge, basically. When I read the announcement, what I saw is he's taking over what is currently the 31 ride.
Yep.
But Colleague is going to turn the 31 number kind of back over to NASCAR, and they're going to ask for or be reassigned, I don't know the right terminology. They're going to run the 10 car number. So I assume that means we're going to see the 10 and the 16 out of the Colleague camp. I think that's the 2 car numbers we're going to see, but either way, Ty Dillon's going to be behind one, the wheel of one.
Good news for Ty.
Yeah, a good opportunity for him to get back into the Cup Series full time. And he's at that point in his career, Steve, where, this is the time, right? He needs to deliver, needs to find a way to have some success. He's had some opportunities in Cup, and this will be a very, very important time in his career to prove that he can get it done. And it's a lot of pressure. It'll be a lot of pressure on him going into the year, but at the same time, a great opportunity.
And you saw in that split screen shot, Daniel Hemrick in the South Point Chevrolet. No news from Daniel just yet on what 2025 looks like. We climb aboard the South Point machine. Let's go for a little ride.
I wanted to do it. I can't do it right.
God, they run that hard throttle on corner exit. You know that old phrase, a safe pair of hands, Jeff? This guy here has completed more laps than any driver in the field this year. So his completion percentage is the best. So you want a safe pair of hands, you're looking at it.
Well, I'll tell you what else is. They're pacing pretty decent right here on this long run.
Another driver who is no longer in the playoff field, but will be on the racetrack. 21 of Harrison Burton, a little bit different paint scheme. Menards colors on the side of the 21. News last week was announced to be driving in the Xfinity Series full time next year. Sure, he's looking to finish up strong in these last 7 weeks. All of these drivers that get kicked out of the playoffs, knocked out, or eliminated, remember why they are in the top 16 of points. Whether you finish 16th or 14th or 12th, that has some financial implications. So the 21, much like the 6 of Brad Keselowski, they're still out here racing for a lot because, first of all, wins. Everybody wants to win. But if you can't win, any point that you score can help as we see Brad slide the back of the car.
We're getting on pit road.
I think we're going to see some green flag pit stops on Sunday.
That looked kind of fun.
It did. So that's the first portion of practice complete. Group 2 coming up. Watch the 6.
Yeah, you see he's trying to turn, cars unloaded. And these cars, Steve, are, under these green flag pit stops, they tend to have a lot of rear brake in them. And turning the car, coming off the banking, all of those things. And Denny Hamlin riding on board with him trying to get on pit road. Not going to make it. So what you do as a driver is you find a visual. For me, I use the billboard on the outside of the racetrack. So there's billboards all along the outside. I pick one of them, and I tell the spotter, hey, I'm going to that one. And so when we would get ready to Geico or Xfinity, that's my spot. And I would tell my spotter, okay, there's my spot. When I get to that, remind me a lap before I pit, and then remind me down the back straightaway. Remember what your spot is, and that's where I would start to make my approach to get onto pit road to make sure I carried enough speed, but not too much.
So that's getting to pit road. How about getting to the finish line? In NASCAR Cup Series history happened here between Kyle Larson and Chris Buescher. So we're going to show you a flashback though across the closest finishes. Atlanta Motor Speedway, we were talking about that not that long ago as Daniel Suarez got there. That was by 0.003 of a second. How about this? 2000s at both Darlington and Talladega. We showed you this. And then back to 2011 Talladega. 2000 thousandths of a second. And then now to this one that I was just mentioning. Earlier this year, in May, 1,000th of a second. That was it. Crazy. And actually getting off the plane yesterday at Kansas City Airport. Nice to see a big Bill holds that record in NASCAR Cup Series history. Crazy finish. What's the potential of seeing a wild finish here tomorrow? I would say it is quite high. As those two guys who were involved in that finish, they roll off, ready to start their portion.
Well, I don't know the likelihood, but there was a lot of conversation about the start-finish line. I'm going to give Kansas Speedway an A-plus job right here because that start-finish line is crisp and clean and neatly painted.
You didn't like the look of the other one back in
The one in the spring. So to me, collision is made by a high-speed camera that's over off pit road, much like you're well aware of the 100-meter from the Olympics. But we want the fans at home to be able to have their opinion, so they have a nice, crisp, white start-finish line. There's a look at the high-speed cameras and redundancy, actually. There's a couple of them. And that matters because that line on, say you wrecked, you could be scored in the grass, on pit road, on the racetrack. It's a continuous line all the way across the grass to pit road. All right, let's go. Group 2. Same rules, 20 minutes of practice, and then we'll reset and get going in qualifying. And earlier today, the first group of the Xfinity cars was much faster than the second group. I think just the track heats up, probably lose a little bit of grip. We'll see if that's the same today. We'll see if the same trend from Group 1 continues. That is a very Chevy-heavy top of the speed charts, with the Trackhouse duo of Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez being the quickest two. Carson Hocevar, then Alex Bowman. Ty Gibbs, the best of the Toyotas, in 5th. So as we get going in Group 2, we will see. Reigning series champ, Ryan Blaney on track. Let's talk more about Team Penske. Here's Kim.
Yeah, and as we talk Kansas, we always have to talk about the wind. Now, I hate the wind. I only want wind if I'm on a sailboat, but I can assure you the teams definitely don't like the wind because it can affect the handling of the race car. Before Joey Logano took to the track, here was the conversation on the team radio as they prepped for their practice session.
Oh, which way does it say the wind's blowing? It feels like it's coming from my back to turn 2, but that flag over in 1 showing from like 2 to the front stretch, so I wasn't sure.
So you hear the conversation as they prepared for their practice session. When we kicked off before session A, a lot of conversation that there was a headwind down the backstretch, big gusts here and there. Yes, it will affect the balance, but lots of teams telling their drivers the forecast shows about half the wind speeds tomorrow as today. So, Steve, if you're a crew chief, are there adjustments you make to your car, or is it just fall in the hands of the driver to manage what they're feeling in the race car when they get those big gusts?
Well, I think the key is the knowledge that the wind exists, so then the driver can understand if maybe if it wasn't got from it, or the direction. You see the American flag kind of right off the in-car camera there heading into turn 1. There's another one in the distance off the backstretch. And the reason why the wind matters is we talk a lot about arrows. We saw a hand out the window for Joey Logano. I think we might get a live trip to pit road. No, I think he's just saying thanks for somebody who let him go down the backstretch. But the wind changes the balance of the race car, also the aerodynamics. If you're driving into a headwind and there's an extra 15 miles an hour of airspeed, that is a huge percentage increase in downforce. More importantly than the increase is when you're driving into a tailwind, Jeff, then you have a huge decrease in downforce because of the airspeed.
And as a driver, you have to recognize those things, because there's nothing that my team can do to make my car drive the same at both ends of the racetrack if the wind's blowing in one direction or the other. So I have to make that adjustment. I need that information. I need to know, okay, which way is that wind blowing? And then I need to understand that with the wind blowing right at my nose, I can drive the car deeper into that corner. But when it's on my rear bumper, I have to lift earlier. And if I don't do those things, I don't care what setup's in it, the car is not going to drive the way it needs to drive. So I didn't say that when I was a driver.
I was recording all of that. I just wanted it on record.
I get kicked out of the drivers union if I said,
Oh, yeah, you're in trouble.
Yes, we saw a lot of this car last week at Bristol, didn't we? Kyle Larson in the 5. Unbelievably dominant performance at Bristol Motor Speedway, leading all but 38 laps. incredible, and that historical nugget too in front of Mr. H. Rick Hendrick was there to see this guy lead more laps in a single race than anybody in Hendrick Motorsports history. What a moment.
A lot of conversation about that race, right? And hey, he dominated. It was, wasn't a great race. Well, can we just stop a minute and appreciate
what he did?
Like it was. That's as a driver and a team, when you can do that, you can put as many people a lap down as possible. Everybody racing the same rules. Everybody has the same opportunity, but we did it. We kicked their butts, plain and simple. That is that easy to understand, and that's what we watched Saturday night, was dominance by a driver and a team and a pit crew. They dominated, and we should stop and celebrate that, not complain about it in my eyes.
Yeah. Take you back just a week ago. What a night it was. Incredible. And had his young son Owen there who got to do the victory ride around with Dad.
We could have showed you the whole highlights, but there was 460 look just like that.
I'll give you a little hint.
Although I will admit, the ride with Owen, while it was awesome, I wanted to give him a little bit more of something to hang on to than those roof rails.
Yeah,
He had me nervous.
I needed the guy saying, make sure you buckle, before this ride leaves, make sure you're all buckled up. Right?
Yeah.
Well, that's a little nerve-wracking.
Cliff Daniels, crew chief of the 5, super proud of that accomplishment. Has his driver as the number 1 man heading into this, the round of 12. And so too, still in the playoffs and still displaying great consistency. First 2 races in the opening round, 10th and 10th. Then 13th. And Steve, that 13th for Austin Cindric came from a beyond 20th position starting spot. So really good, determined run at Bristol to show good consistency for the team, the Penske driver.
Great consistency. I have 2 concerns. The first is that I don't think the finishing numbers tells the tale, right? The tale is really how many points can you score. And I think you need to run better than 10th, 10th, and 13th. You need to be up inside the top 10. Now, I believe the 2 has that ability at times. That's the second concern. The second concern is 10th, 10th, and 16. And I think it might even work in the round of 12. But Jeff, as you mentioned it with the 9 car earlier in this practice about needing that speed to win, for Cindric, I want to see a 10th turn into a 7th or a 13th turn into maybe a 13th place finish, but we scored top 5 points because we ran well in the stages. Now for Cindric, I think, why not? Good road racer, always good at the speedways. And so far here today, right, he's 5th of this group. I actually don't hate the 2-car speed.
And Steve, I guess the question for Cindric is, what is a successful playoffs? Like, I don't think they have the same. I know they won't admit this, but I don't think they have the same capabilities that the 5 of Larson, right? So if they could get into the championship 4, make the next round, I think that's an extremely successful playoff for them based on their regular season. So I think they brought their best to the playoffs. Question, you're exactly right, Steve. Are they at their capability? Are they maximizing? Because that's not going to get done what they want to get done, but it could get done and maximize their opportunity. And he is a young driver, and that could be a successful playoff for them.
Are enough people talking about this man here, the driver of the Reeve Toyota for Joe Gibbs Racing, Christopher Bell? He is the only one of the playoff drivers to score 2 top 5 results in the opening round of the playoffs. Steve, are enough people talking to him or paying attention?
Well, I don't think people are talking about him because they know they're going to talk about him a lot in the round of 8 and maybe in the championship 4. I think he is just a foregone conclusion to some media members. Now, that's not how the sport works, and the other 11 drivers could care less how well he ran in the first round. But you talk about ceiling, Jeff. We don't question the ceiling of this guy because Christopher Bell, Adam Stevens, they could go out and not just run top 5 in a couple races. They could win a couple races in a round. They have proven it. And for that reason, I think his whole career maybe he isn't talked about enough. But I think we're going to have a lot of races to talk about him because I don't think he's going anywhere.
Well, he's been in the championship 4 each of the last 2 years. Won Phoenix in the spring. Last year, they had the mechanical failure, knocked them out of the race, and they're hungry. And to your point, Steve, they're more than capable. But you got to in this format, you have to be right at the right time. Period. End of story. And And if you can't be right at the right time, and that means the key moments where they are in trouble in these playoffs, and it will happen to everybody. How do they recover? How do they respond to bad days? How do they respond to bad issues? And then, if you can dodge all that, you get to Phoenix, how do you respond on that day? Because
All right, so we'll go over the whole practice leaderboard that you see on the screen right now. Individually for Group B, Kyle Larson's the quickest of those that are on the track currently. About halfway through this Group B session of practice, about 9.5 minutes to go out of the original 20. Martin Truex Jr. with a 30.658 is second. That fastest lap by Larson was a 30.593. Christopher Bell, third fastest in this group. Zane Smith, fourth. Austin Cindric in fifth. Justin Haley, sixth. Joey Logano 7th, Michael McDowell 8th, Josh Berry 9th, Corey LaJoie 10th. So those are the fast 10 for Group B. Overall, Ross Chastain is the quickest. He was in Group A. His fastest lap was a 30.433. He ran 27 laps in his session. His fastest lap averaged out of a speed of 177.439 miles per hour. His teammate, Daniel Suarez, second quickest and fastest of the playoff drivers so far overall, also in Group A. Alex Bowman, third fastest. Carson Hocevar fourth, Ty Gibbs fifth, and then Kyle Larson sixth. Larson again fastest in Group B. Daniel Hemrick is seventh overall. William Byron eighth. Eric Jones ninth. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 10th. Martin Truex Jr. 11th. Christopher Bell 12th. Ty Dillon 13th. 14th for Tyler Reddick. Chase Elliott 15th. 16th Denny Hamlin. Zane Smith 17th. Austin Cindric 18th. Justin Haley 19th. And Joey Logano 20th. 21st for Noah Gragson. Michael McDowell 22nd. Josh Berry 23rd. Austin Dillon 24th. Corey LaJoie 25th. Brad Keselowski 26, Ryan Blaney 27, 28th, Harrison Burton, Bubba Wallace 29, John Hunter Nemechek in 30th. Chase Briscoe 31st, 32nd, Chris Buescher 33rd, Kyle Busch, Kaz Grala 34th, Ryan Preece 35th, Ty Gillen 36th, Jimmy Johnson 37th, and JJ Yeley 38th. Johnson and Yeley, the only two non-chartered entries to be running this weekend's race, so we'll have 38 starters for tomorrow. So that is a look at the live leaderboard and the full practice running order stats as of right now. And we will have our first ad break of the stream. You're listening live on KRC. Ford's definitely lacking in speed in practice overall right now. Fastest is Austin Cindric in 18th. So Ford's definitely lacking here at Kansas, which seemed to be the case back in the spring outside of Chris Buescher and the late going to that race having speed. He was really the only Ford that had speed throughout the weekend, but even Buescher outside the top 30 in the practice times right now. So Ford probably not where they want to be for this weekend at this moment. Quick shout outs to those of you in the chat as of right now. NASCAR Penske Cup Series Racing, Matthew Dorter, Bruno, Richard Gillespie, Bones Does, Frank Powers. I'll keep the political stuff out of here, but I don't believe. Welcome to the stream as well. And appreciate everybody that is tuning into this. So keep our live commentary coverage going. We got about, looks like 6.5 minutes remaining in practice. Qualifying single car will be on the other side of that. So you can listen into more of the broadcast again.
Today. Let's not forget Rodney Childers, right? We're going to have Rodney Childers when he finishes up at Stewart Haas Racing, who is doing a heck of a job, by the way, finishing up with Josh Berry in the 4 car, 9th on the grid right now. But, you know, they're not just mailing it in. They're racing very difficult each and every week. So he'll join up in 7 cars. So a lot of the right ingredients are there. The question is, can you get them all at the right time at the right tracks?
Kind of like a coming home for Justin Haley prior to tomorrow. He's got 35 starts with Spire already, as we see a man who was in the hot seat last weekend in Bristol. We were focused a lot on Martin Truex Jr. and was he going to make it? Was he not? There was a long period of time there where he was doing everything right, but unfortunately a pit road speed penalty put him at the back, and that was the end of his night, the end of his chances of advancing through to the round of 12.
Well, the nightmare, we just showed you the last 8 finishes. The best was the 20th.
Yeah.
And it's just been a nightmare. You know, I'm running out of adjectives or explanation or analysis. It's not speed. You know, the thing that everybody works the hardest on is to find speed. That's the magical thing we talk about. Have the car drive good. Have it comfortable. The 19 seems to have that, but none of that has translated to better finishes.
Yeah, this is certainly one of his better racetracks. The question to me has always been, because I experienced it, how much energy can you bring to his races when you've been knocked out of the playoffs? And it's easy to say, I'm going to bring 100%. It doesn't change anything, but it does. You now walk into that garage. You're no longer chasing the championship. You're chasing the best finishes you can get. That's different. And so with his number of days winding down in his full-time career, he and crew chief team, if they're going to win races in the next 7, they're going to have to be more committed than before, because these playoff teams, they find a way to bring more, and it gets very difficult to beat them.
So if I was James Small, I would take the exact opposite approach with Martin. I would make sure the team is doing exactly what you said, Jeff, right? We are rallying the troops. But for Martin, I think I would almost say, hey, man, I really want you to enjoy this last 7. I'm going to try to give you the best race car again. I don't want to make you think like I'm not trying, right? To your point, Jeff, we're going to work as hard as we know how to work. But Martin, you've had such an illustrious career, done so many things. I want you to just look forward to coming to the racetrack. So, I don't know exactly what button that is. I would look at the same way for Kyle Busch in the 8 car, looking for that win, right? Looking for the win 20 years in a row. That's an incredible record. He currently owns it with 19 years in a row. And I think for the 8, he's really fast when he's really happy. So, I don't know if you can work harder. You just have to come with a little bit more relaxed mindset. A couple of back-to-back examples of if they were to get a win, you get Truex or Busch, there'd be a lot of happy people for a variety of reasons. And this is a track that Kyle said that took him quite a multi-time winner here. He loves it. He's excited about coming here this weekend. And maybe, just maybe, this can keep that winning run, that incredible winning run going. Less than 3 minutes left in this practice session before we go into quali mode. Set the field for tomorrow's Hollywood Casino 400.
So far, of all the playoff drivers, I think this is the one that is struggling the most in regard to speed. Chase Briscoe only has 17 laps. He's come in and out of the pits multiple times trying to make his race car better. And with only 17 laps, obviously he's going to be faster than everybody. But that's a 31.82 with 18 laps. And Blaney's out there running 31.90s with 31 laps. So far, this is not the start of this race weekend that this 14 car needs. Still some time to make some changes. Get better, but not the start they wanted.
Can't imagine the emotion the driver's going through with a bride expecting twins. So they took a trip to the hospital just the other day, yesterday, I think. Last night with potential. They actually had another appointment canceled with some power outages with a crazy storm on the East Coast. So this is a driver that has I can't even imagine the emotion and trying to find the right focus to do your job. By the way, he told our Dustin Long from NBC Sports that he's asked Richard Boswell, his crew chief, if he's in the race, and Richard or the team find out about wife Marissa and the twins, the birth of their twins. He said, don't tell me until the race is over.
Right. Get all the preparation, get me to the airport.
Right. Yeah. And Joe Gibbs has made his plane available, which is incredibly generous. So future boss, right? Going to drive to 19 next year. It's going to be one of those weekends. He also told Dustin that after they were released from the hospital last night, after Marissa was having some contractions, on their way home, they said, why not? We feel like a burger. So they went to Cookout.
Get a shake,
and just relax. A lot going on, that's for sure. Kim, what's happening in your world?
You're talking about Chase Briscoe. I do want to add, he got hush puppies and some other things. He did not get a milkshake. Marissa did get a milkshake at Cookout. But you talk about the impending birth of his twins, and then that's something on his plate as he tries to navigate running for a championship. The other thing this weekend that's big for this team is they had a pit crew swap. So the Josh Berry pit crew from the earlier part of the season will now be pitting for Chase Briscoe. And I talked to him, and he said it was a really tough thing. It's tough for everybody. It's tough for Josh Berry's pit crew being on his crew now, just because they know they took the spots of the crew that basically got Chase to where he is. But they had some faults last weekend. They had some slow stops, And he did say, Chase said he texted his entire crew and told them that they are still just as much a part of this crew as the new guys, as the 4 guys coming on to this 14. And he said it's for everybody. Everybody is all in from top to bottom, despite there being a little bit of a shakeup on pit road. And what does that mean, though, for a team? You know, I'll pose this to Steve and to Jeff. When you have a crew that's gotten you as far as it has, and then all of a sudden it's shaken up, what does that do for confidence levels?
Well, I will say this. You know, this is super unpopular, and no one loves when I say it, but this is not high school intramural football. It is professional sports, and coaches, especially right now, we're in football season. We see coaches bench. If you're a Panthers fan, you know all about this, right? Your star QB's on the bench now. You have to make changes. That Josh Barrett crew is ranked 7th on the season. Briscoe's crew ranked 20th. So, you know, I know there's a lot of personality and a lot of meshing, but in the end, it is a performance-based sport. As a crew chief for many years, it was, you know, it's tough and it hurts your feelings. You have to make changes like that. I think it's even more emotional here. You're talking about an organization shutting down, but you know, you just have to put the best foot forward. I applaud the organization for making a change. I know that had to be super emotional in the situation they're in, Diff, but I think you owe it to Briscoe, right? If you feel like you have a pit crew available and he's in the playoffs, you have to give it to your playoff car, right, Jeff?
It's about winning. End period, end of story. And I know changing the pit crews, you know, our sport, that's kind of, it's newish, you know, in the history of our sport. But in every other sport, if you got a guy that can run faster, catch the ball better, throw the ball better, you put them in. And it's just that simple. And the pit crew that wasn't doing as well, that is hurtful. But if over the season, you can't make those changes over a couple bad stops. Right. But if over the season you have a team that's been better, then it's the most responsible and the right thing to do for a company trying to win the playoffs and win the championship. So, look, I don't know if they made the right call or not. Time will tell on that. But I definitely agree with putting the best pit crew on pit road that you could possibly have to try to go win a championship.
And by the way, Stevie, on behalf of all Panthers fans, I want to thank you, as you're a Pats fan, for mentioning a Panthers victory. Go Andy Dalton. 36-year-old, still got plenty of life left in the arm and the legs.
Only guy to throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was right away. Good for him. I was impressed.
You've made my weekend already, and the weekend's only just getting started because we're looking forward to tomorrow.
We've got 400 miles today. Going to be a long race. Make sure we're making cut, and we're there at the end.
Tomorrow day, forward.
Yeah, sir. Kill, dude.
I think it's yeah, too much. Refocus. Everybody get together now. How's that about?
All right. For you, Mr. Raven.
Yeah, believe it. Yeah, dude. Where'd it go? Yeah, baby. Hey, copy that. Hell yeah, buddy.
Racing today at 4 p.m. Eastern with the Xfinity Series. They get going in their playoffs. That's on the CW. NASCAR Countdown Live begins half an hour before that. And then tomorrow we'll have Countdown to Green on USA at 2:30 Eastern. Racing at 3 for the first race of the round of 12. Last 2 actually make it. Last 3 winners here in a row at Kansas, all playoff drivers. Larson, Redding, Hamlin. Can't wait for tomorrow. The Hollywood Casino 400. As we now get ready to go into qualifying mode. And as we throw everybody into the mix, here's what it looks like, Jeff. Both Group A and B after 20 minutes of practice each.
Yeah, you can see the majority of them Group A track just a little bit cooler. Kyle Larson, the only guy right there in Group B. So a little hard to tell, you know, how this track was, but Kyle Larson being in that group tells me he certainly has a fast car. That's a big surprise.
Well, and this is why the A qualifies against A and B qualifies against B, because even just a little bit of time that you'll sit between 2 qualifying sessions, there is an advantage to the track.
Christopher Bell of Joe Gibbs Racing going for 3 poles in a row at Kansas Speedway. We'll see if he can get that in just a little while as the cars start to form up. It's a beautiful day here in the Heartland at this just immaculate facility. The way, if you've never been to Kansas Speedway, put it on your visit list, because you will be nothing but impressed
And the Hollywood Casino, by the way, we can see from our booth, that's just over outside turn 2 here at the Speedway. There it is, over in the distance. We're on the opposite side of the track to that. Stevie, I know that you know what the inside of that place looks like.
Very fond of some areas in that building over there. Great steakhouse.
Yeah, this whole area is, when we first started coming out here, there was not a lot. And now there is shopping, there's hotels, there's restaurants, there's a soccer stadium, baseball field, all kinds of stuff. And it is amazing how it's grown.
Meeting of the minds right here. We heard about a potential engine issue. That's Chase Elliott, left obvious. In the foreground, you see Scott Maxim, who, longtime employee, now runs the Hendrick engine department. Behind him, Jeff Andrews, who's president and general manager of Hendrick Motorsports, who was the former head of the Hendrick engine department, so knows a lot about it. Alan Gustafson in. I was wondering what the update was going to be, and it doesn't look
Body language, body language says a lot.
Yeah, that's just frustrating for Alan and the group. Remember, if you don't qualify, you're not going to get a pit pick. You're just, good news is it happened to practice. If you want to kind of glass half full it, Jeff. But now we'll have to just get an official update. Sounds like they're getting some updates now, what their options are, when can they work on the car.
Well, the concern would, obviously be very interesting to understand what is wrong. Does it migrate itself through the Hendrick Motorsports camp? That would be concerning.
As the discussion goes on, by the way, for Chase Elliott fans, I know you know, but he is 7th in the standings as we begin the second round of the playoffs. We were talking about the 7-time champ Jimmy Johnson a little earlier. He's standing by with Kim.
Yeah, Lee, 7-time champ, 3-time Kansas winner. So let's talk about practice first. What did you have in the car and what did you need?
Not driving these cars every week, it just takes a little time to get back in the rhythm. So I have plenty of time in the simulator adjusting, but when you have real life consequences, it's just different. So learning my way around, really enjoying this opportunity, and thankful for Dollar Tree and Family Dollar to allow me to be out here in the Toyota Camry, and just trying to help learn a little here to help with our other 2 cars. It's been a challenging year for us, but I really think we're moving in the right direction, and using the 3rd car occasionally here should help us for 25.
Next week, you're going to be on the Peacock Pit Box for Talladega. What's more nerve-wracking, watching your teams out on the track at a super speedway race or being in a super speedway race?
Being in the super speedway race is pretty crazy. So I'll be happy sitting on the box, but really the reason I'm here is just for NBC. I'm doing this so that I'm a better broadcaster next weekend. So thank you, everybody.
Love it.
Yeah, thanks.
Looking forward to seeing Jimmy as part of the team next weekend at Talladega.
That's always great to have Jimmy on the team, and we say well done too, because he's making his 696th Cup start tomorrow, which, Steve, breaks a tie for 22nd all time with the man who's in between you and me. Jeff, did you even know that stat? Man, 695?
I knew I felt old for some reason.
So now I feel like I am going to drop you off the front door to dinner. No more walking from the parking lot.
I might have to start a few races to beat that guy.
Yeah.
He's going to beat me today, so maybe start a couple.
We'll see. All right, let's get things rolling. Are you ready for qualifying? 2 groups, and we will net the top 5 from each group, and then we'll sort out who's in the top 10, and the race for that pole position. Again, Christopher Bell going for 3 in a row, but let's get things going with the 44 of JJ Yeley.
So I'm going to be very curious. In Xfinity Series, the first half of the cars ran around the bottom of the racetrack, and then all of a sudden the top became the dominant spot. So top coming to the green, pretty normal, as expected. But what's JJ do down here? 1 and 2, does he go to the bottom?
Top. Not even gonna think about it. All the top. I was shocked anybody in Xfinity ran the bottom. I was really surprised. Actually, I ran into Parker Klickerman, and he's like, I'm sitting there trying to decide what to do, and I'm like, there's a choice? You know what I mean? And so what he did is he watched some guys in front. I think in this car, particularly, Steve, I don't think you'll see anybody run the bottom.
That's why you needed that stat, Diff, because that's what he'd say. I started 695 of these. I'm going to tell you need to run the top.
So there's the first time on the board from JJ Yeley, 31.6, and a speed of just over 170.5 miles per hour. Up next in the 15, Kaz Growler. He's going to make his first Cup start here at Kansas Speedway tomorrow.
Yeah, he's run here in the other 2 series, both trucks and Xfinity.
Kaz, every time he drives this car, this rare racing car, he does a good job. He really, I've seen him run, top 15. Every now and then, a few races, he's run even a little better than that. They don't always get the finishes, but Kaz has done a nice job in this race car.
You see, only down to half throttle, so never completely out of the gas. And that's the Yaley time, a good half a second.
Yeah, good chunk of time there. Nice run from Kaz Grala. So that'll put him in a good mood heading into tomorrow to make his first Cup start. We mentioned Ty Dillon and that positive sign for 2025 for him, where he will race full time in Cup. Let's go. He's on the clock from here.
I thought these collet cars had pretty decent pace in race trim.
He actually looked like he drug a little bit of brake, but still in the throttle, maybe a combination of two pedals.
Speed looks good. Almost 0.3 of a second to the good over Grala. It's trending that way. It's staying that way. And Ty Dillon will go to the top. All right, Chase Elliott's been a talking point throughout this practice and heading into qualifying. Let's find out more what the latest is with Kim.
Yeah, not sure he actually knows. Chase, you didn't get to complete practice. You did roll your car out to the grid. Any indication of what's wrong with the engine?
We're not sure. We went through all the things that you can check on pit road. Obviously, when you have an engine issue like that, it's can be difficult to identify what exactly is broke. For me, I came off turn 2 and basically just felt like it went down a cylinder, audible change, and lost a lot of power. So I knew something was wrong, and came in as quick as I could just to try to keep from messing it up any worse. But such a bummer. What a terrible time to have something go wrong. The Hendrick engine shop has been so good throughout my career. I don't even think I've filled up a hand of engine issues that we've had over the course of my entire career. So I hate it, but would much rather have it happen today than tomorrow. So we'll try to go make a lap, just for the tire situation and to try to better our position for tomorrow and see where it ends up.
Thanks for the time.
Yep.
So again, you heard what Chase did say. They'll try and make a lap. If it runs for a lap, then they will change the motor on that Chevrolet.
Eric Jones on the racetrack right before Harrison Burton. I love the lap that Eric Jones laid out there. He put it against the boards on corner entry in both corners. And I think that's the pathway to success. He used all the racetrack. He's a really good driver at Darlington where you do that, get into turn 3, and look just like that. Right now, P1 on the board. I don't think he's going to end up P1, but I love the lap and I love his approach.
Well, at his speed of 30.5, that was about on target with what Kyle Larson did from Group B, slightly slower in Group A. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. on track, and the clock says green at the moment.
Really nice 1 and 2, trending green down the backstretch.
See, he did the same thing. A lot of the earlier drivers, they entered a little bit lower and kind of washed up to the wall. Eric Jones, Harrison Burton, Ty Dillon, and now Ricky Stenhouse, they always use that high entry. I think that's a pathway to success for sure.
Oh, that was close, Jeff. Really close. 30.526 for Jones, 30.535 for Ricky Stenhouse. The JTG Doherty man almost eclipsed Eric Jones. We've seen Ty Dillon on track. Now here's Big Bro. Here's Austin. And that's a good start, Steve. 0.3 to the good.
It's comparing to Grala and Finn. So I think he's looking to run something in the 50s to really have a chance. He's going to be trending there. Denny Hamlin on the bottom, bring this homework with him.
Like RCR is continuing to improve. I know they're disappointed they're not, in the playoffs any longer. Or never made the playoffs this year. But still, we're making improvements to that car every week.
Is the South Point Chevy for Daniel Hemrick. He had a decent practice run.
Pretty committed to the gas. Went right back to the throttle as soon as he got it to the wall. Had to lift a little bit. Early, he's in the gas.
Got a chance to push himself into that top 5. And should leapfrog Ty Dillon. He does. Daniel Hemrick to 5th. So from Hemrick to Brad Keselowski, the RFK Racing Ford.
They had a big struggle last week at Bristol. Just didn't go as well as they needed them to go. Not a great lap here. Builds some speed on corner exit. Probably 4th fastest here.
It was a very consistent lap from Keselowski where that time didn't really change a lot. He got a little bit faster towards the end of the lap. Here's Chase Elliott after speaking with Kim Coon. So we're going to try. We're going to try and go out. We're going to try and do a lap. We'll see what the engine allows us to do. Carson Fuxabar on track now.
You mentioned the high entrance. That was it. That was kind of above the pavement seam getting into the corner. Rolled through the middle of the corner.
Another.
Entrance actually turns down a little bit on exit, or maybe through the middle is more accurate.
Yeah, you'll see that in 3 and 4 more than you do in 1 and 2. 1 and 2, you kind of stay against the wall the entire way around P1 right here. 3 and 4, you use a little more racetrack, turn down a little bit.
So, Diff, as we see Hocevar come in, I just want to go back to that Chase Elliott interview. We talked about the engine and what he felt and why he shut it off. But then he had an interesting comment. He said, we're going to go out here and see if it will run and for the tire situation. So to explain to the fan at home, every team is allotted the same amount of tires. The asterisk or caveat is you're allowed to transfer a set of scuffs, not stickers. So if the 9 doesn't qualify, these are still brand new tires. He can't transfer those to Sunday just because he didn't use them and have an extra set of tires against the field. That's not how this works. Now, he has a set of scuffs for practice, but they got 25 laps or something. That's going to do them no good in the race. So it's really to the 9's advantage to go out there. Even if he runs a 35-second lap and qualifies last, the risk is the engine fails completely, damages the race car oil on the racetrack, things like that. I'm sure what Chase may or may not know, but it's not up to him to tell us, is the engine department has probably said we're going to go out and give this a chance. But if we get just 1 lap, even if it's 5 seconds off the pace, that gives us that set of scuffed tires for the race. I know it's way in the nuance, but it matters enough that Chase Elliott's going to go risk this qualifying lap.
All right, Chase is getting ready to go out. So too is Joey Logano in a moment. He's with Kim.
And Joey Logano, remember, won Atlanta at the opening race of the round of 16, so that gave you 2 extra weeks to put a little bit more focus than other teams on Kansas. What does that afford you as a driver?
I mean, a little bit. It's definitely more impactful if you win in the round of 8. You're locked into the championship 4, but it definitely helps a little bit and able to focus in a little bit more on Kansas, and hopefully that pays some dividends here moving forward into the rest of the weekend.
What makes Kansas challenging? I know we talked about it being a 1.5 miles, but I know the radius of the corner is very long for you as a driver. What kind of do you have to put together to make a good lap here?
Yeah, it's such a fast track. You're carrying so much on throttle time. The top lane so fast. You see that in qualifying. You're right on the ragged edge. It's a pretty sketchy lap, to be honest with you. And then the race, as wide as it is, restarts are probably one of the most challenging parts of the whole day. So making sure you hit those things, those little details correct, gives you at least a shot to win this thing. So I think our Shell Penzo Mustang's got decent speed in it. Seemed to handle pretty good. I'll make some small tweaks, but we'll see what he's got for qualifying.
Good stuff. Joey's a Kansas winner. And as Kim mentioned right at the beginning of that interview, I'm sure he'd like to win straight up in this first race of the round of 12. There are 2 cars in the field this weekend, both from Stuart Haas, that look exactly the same in this Bed Bath and Beyond. It's Josh Berry and this man, Noah Gregson. And the point of differentiation is the roof. Noah has the predominantly white roof, whereas Josh has the blue roof. We'll get tricked in the race, I'm sure.
I'm not saying either of them. You might get tricked. There's no chance. I'm just saying that's a chart car diff.
There you go. There's the difference.
Oh, yeah, that's really helped me out. Good lap right here. Losing a little bit on the exit of turn 4, but prior to that, it was really good. Didn't turn out as well as he needed it to or wanted it to. It's like he may have gotten tight. Barney turned the way he wanted in the middle 3 and 4, but 1 and 2 in the interest of 3 was really good.
And Noah Gregson has eased his way into that top 5 at the moment. We continue with this first group. Next up, Ross Chastain, who was the fastest man from practice. It's close, 200ths of a second off.
I don't think he's gonna get it.
It's coming back. It's coming back. It's gone green.
Oh, maybe never mind.
Trouble, man. You pick all of it up in the middle of 3 and 4 at the exit.
Chastain to P4.
I don't think it'll hold up though.
All right, who's up next? Ty Gibbs on track.
Oh, Candace Green, really nice. Carried some speed through 3 and 4. That did have a wiggle.
I tell you what, it didn't slow him down.
Not as good as the only guy who didn't care was Ty Gibbs. Had me nervous.
I think this is the driver that only becomes more motivated by being knocked out of the playoffs. This is a monster lap. Look at that.
22. All right, so Chastain, I hate to tell you, but if there's a 22 out there and we have 6 playoff drivers to go, I don't feel very good for Chastain, really, or Stenhouse, probably even Eric Jones. I just feel like all of these guys are out of found the pace.
That was the best time of the day. Next on track is one of the 12 remaining playoff drivers. The man from Mexico, Daniel Suarez, showed his grit and determination last weekend at Bristol just to hang tough and to do enough to be here, to be in, to be present in the round of 12.
Really making a statement right here with this qualifying lap.
Love your phone, but not the cost.
It's a weird time to get an ad on the NBC Sports app. Right now, Ty Gibbs is currently fastest of those in Group A qualifying. We have had 14 of the 18, or rather 19, 14 of 19 drivers to qualify in this group. Again, top 5 advance from each group to the final round to have a shot to re-go for the pole. Daniel Suarez is second quickest right now. Then you got Carson Hocevar, Eric Jones, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is in that 5th and final spot. Currently on the racetrack is Tyler Reddick. And he is going to move into the top 5.
Here we go. P3.
P3. But 30.
And this is part of the big picture that Tyler wanted to achieve this weekend. Qualify better. Give myself a chance at starting up front so I can fight right from the drop of the green flag. Here's William Byron, fellow playoff driver in the round of 12.
He had the crew chief watch.
Tied with, yeah.
Got him tied. He got beaten by a little bit. That's the old positive crew chief watch.
This one's not going to be tied. This one right here has a chance to go all the way to the top, better than Gibbs. You need to find just maybe a touch more down at this end of the racetrack, and he's doing it.
It's looking good. It's going to be close for P1. 0.3 of a second to the good for William Byron to the top. So these guys, like Reddick, like Byron, who said we can go to Kansas and have a good weekend, they're doing it. They're not just talking about it. So far, they're doing it. Up next, another playoff driver. Here's Alex Bowman.
What a great shot right off the front nose of 48. Jeff, you and I were just out there in the pace car. The track in general has very little content. I mean, smooth. It looks like you should have some bumps, but you don't really feel them, right? I mean, it's the weathered asphalt, but except for right there. That's a real bump. Let's go down to the apron.
Yeah, it's very smooth racetrack. Alex lost a little bit of pace in the center and exit of 4. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to make this final 5, but nonetheless, a good start spot. think that's what you hope for, Steve, right? Is you don't have to sit on the pole as a playoff guy, but you don't want to qualify 25th.
That's right.
You want to be toward the front for sure. You see Hamlin a little more pace.
Just a couple of drivers to come in this first group. We make the switch with the inclusion of Jimmy Johnson in the field this weekend. 38 drivers here at Kansas Speedway. Clock still says green for Denny Hamlin to push his way into the top 5. And it's only getting better. How about P3? That knocks Alex Bowman out.
Now, let's listen in and see how this night sounds. It sounds pretty sick to me.
Looks really slow too.
Yeah.
182.
I give Chase credit. I mean, he's not out there part throttle or pedaling it. He's giving a full effort. Wide open, no problem. The lack of horsepower is definitely showing.
Remember we saw this with the Atlanta car early in the playoffs. They just found just a little bit of an electrical problem. Maybe as simple as something like that. You would think they could have found that pretty easily, though.
Yeah.
Between practice and qualifying, they didn't find it. So either way, let's start at the back of the pack.
Now I'm sure it'll be into the garage, and as Chase pointed out, they can take the spark plugs out. They have cameras, borescopes that look down in each cylinder to try to look what's wrong. They can take the valve covers off. NASCAR will be there and let them really dig into this engine. If you're a Hendrick at this point, I think you just soon change the engine.
Yeah.
You see there's an issue, but they're going to have to see what it is, and NASCAR is going to just have to be on board that it has to be fixed. This one, unless they do find something like that plug wire, Jeff, I think we're going to probably see a different engine in the 9 for tomorrow.
Elliott, one of the 12 playoff drivers. Series champion in the NASCAR Cup Series. And would dearly love to do it again. He's given himself the best shot. We always talk about he's been the quiet achiever. But he's there. Bristol was proof of that. Last weekend, and he is one of the contenders in this round of 12, but some work to do for the 9 team, first and foremost. And then it's going to be a busy day tomorrow for the 9 to make progress as quickly as he can. We'll update you when we know more about the story of this, just like we did at Atlanta with Denny Hamlin and the JGR cars. So we join Kim. Who have you found?
Chase Briscoe getting. What does it feel like in the car, and how can it affect your qualifying lap?
Yeah, this place, for whatever reason, I feel like it affects us way more than anywhere else. Just your balance. Even before practice, I was asking my spotter to switch direction the wind's blowing because it really changes how the car drives. So you never know if it's a wind gust or whatever it may be. So qualifying, it's a little bit different, but certainly in the race tomorrow, the wind will be a huge factor just from a balance standpoint. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna have regardless of the wind in our Mahindra Tractor Sport Mustang, or Dark Horse, but I don't know. We just have not been able to quite find the balance today so far. So have literally zero idea what I'm going to have here in qualifying, but hopefully it'll be good.
You have a lot going on besides making a qualifying lap here. I know your wife Marissa is close to delivering the twins. On top of that, we've talked about your pit crew switch for this weekend. From behind the wheel, how do you manage it all and maintain your focus?
Yeah, there's certainly been a lot going on. Just the playoffs, and like literally last night at 9 o'clock, I was at the hospital with Marissa. So 14 cars fast as I possibly can every single lap. So trying to block all that other stuff out, but at the end of the day, just got to do my job the best I can. Look myself in the mirror at the end of the night and know I did that. So that's what we're trying to do.
And remember, Chase told us last weekend that people need to start taking this team seriously when it comes to a championship title.
Can't believe it, like Scotty Scheffler at the Masters this year. His first child. This is not the birth of the Briscoes' first child, but he too had to focus on the Masters and was thinking about his wife and child. So speaking of being a dad, here's the dad of 2, Jimmy Johnson, on track back at Kansas. As we begin Group 2, and Jimmy posts the time of a 30.8 in comparison. Best time from Group 1, a 30.220.
Chase Elliott back to the garage. Team will go to work on the 9 car.
And listen, really quickly, just before we get to Justin Haley's qualifying run, what's that like for the team now? Is it like all hands on deck, everybody's in there, or you just keep a sense of calm?
Yeah, I think right here it's
You know what to do.
a real sense of calm. You don't need too much help. You're not up against the time limit. You have until tomorrow. Get the car up, get the parts pieces off that need to be out of the way, and let the engine department get in there and do what they do. And at that point, that's the key, right? Is don't create another issue being in a hurry, as we see Justin Haley first qualifying run, and really his return to Spire. You pointed it out. He was there a couple years ago. So while he is back to Spire, that 0.49 would be just a little short in the first group. It would match Hocevar. He ran a 4.7, very close to his teammate.
And as fate would have it,
Oh, for sure.
the replacement driver, nice little driver swap here. One goes right after the other. They'll ride around in the trucks tomorrow, probably waving to the crowd. Fit next to each other. It always works out that way.
And we don't yet know what 2025 looks like for Corey LaJoie, but we do know that you'll see him in this car for the remainder of the 24 season. Just slightly off on time at the moment, just by a tenth. He's going to leapfrog Jimmy Johnson and tuck in behind Justin Haley early in this Group 2 portion of qualifying.
He's a respectable lap by Corey, and of course by both of those drivers. I think both of them will be pretty happy with them. I don't think they're going to be great with where they end up, but good efforts by both.
Hunter Nemechek on track now, by the way, from the first group and the top five. 4 of the top 5 are playoff drivers. So this is setting up for quite the showdown here to set the grid for tomorrow's Hollywood Casino 400.
And I would expect more of the same from this group. John Hunter trying to get some time back down here in Casino 4. Loses it on exit.
Patience is required right now with this team, right? They're building, they're growing. Eric Jones, he was 8th fastest in the first group, so that's a good sign, teammate. But new association is toward the end of the year, Steve. New association with Toyota this year. I think next year that whole group's going to look completely different. It'll be very competitive.
Next up, Front Row Motorsports, Todd Gilliland. Admittedly, this has not been the best track for Todd. They're working on it. They're making improvements. We'll see what qualifying looks like.
I spent some time with Todd this week, and I asked him about Kansas. He didn't even go to the race. He was qualifying. He said, let me tell you, it's sketchy. Qualifying around there feels fast.
And bluntly, the weakness of this team is the dead.
It is.
They just
They
do
start
not
behind.
qualify
Yeah.
well, and they race fine. The way they race is they have good speed. It's very good, very respectable, but they start behind every week.
All right, Steve, with the blue roof, who's this?
Josh Berry, I've got my flashcards ready.
And off to a good start. The comparison is to the 5th place car of Jimmy Johnson, but he's trending towards being 0.2 of a second better, so he's going to be around that P3 mark of John Hunter Nemechek at the moment. And the clock says P3.
Well, with Haley on the top of the rundown so far, here comes his teammate, Zane Smith in the 71.
Kasip Hocevar, the only Spire driver in the first group, and he just got edged out of that top 5. 7th for Hocevar. As we watch Zane Smith.
Chance to go all the way to the top.
Jeff, it's only getting better. Look at that. Look at the clock. It's getting towards half a second to the good.
Yeah, good lap right here.
Great stuff. Zane Smith, 30.3. To put that in comparison to the fastest speed and the fastest time from the first group, 30.220 set by William Byron. So that is a monster lap from Zane Smith.
Spire Motorsports is consistently, over the last several months, to be a place that you want to go. Not just to have a job, but to compete and to have a chance to compete to win races. That wasn't the case a year ago, but now they've done such a great job of building. They're putting pressure on teams like this RCR.
And Zane, I think, has to wonder what he's got going on for next year. The lineup sounds like it's full. Spire is, ooh, there we go. How about a 30.15?
Best time of the day. Could this be the weekend that Kyle Busch breaks that 50 race winless drought and continues to win at least one race in every season for 20 years? We'll see. Here's Chris Buescher.
His teammate Keselowski was 13th fastest in the first group. It's not the pace that this team would want to have. Not a terrible lap, but certainly pretty far off of that 15 that Kyle Busch just ran.
Well, the only non-playoff driver in the top 5 for the first group was Ty Gibbs, a playoff driver a week ago, and he didn't make the cut. After Bristol, we'll see if Truex can match that feat. Oh, yeah, back to the gas and trending quickly.
And maybe, just maybe, it's a situation where that just massive load of pressure is off. Mark knows that he's counting down the races he has left as a full-time driver, and maybe that in a more relaxed way. That's when that win's going to come in his final season. This is a good lap, really good lap, and Mark Truex Jr. slots into P3 for the time being.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch his team. Martin's been such a good representative of this sport. People respect him in the garage. Obviously very successful on track, but off track, has done the right thing for the sport. It was defended a champion, represented the sport well then. He'll be missed next year full time.
He's going to come back and do the Daytona 500 next February. So we look forward to that, but we look forward to finishing off this 2024 season. Let's hear from Daniel Suarez. He's with Kim.
Yeah, Lee, he had a fast enough lap that he will transfer into the final round of qualifying. What can you do differently to improve on your lap time?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. The car actually was very good in 1 and 2, very good in 3, a little bit too tight in 4. So the car has definitely more in it. We just have to make a couple little tweaks. And hopefully we get right, with the tire cycle, because the tires they're not gonna be stickers anymore. But overall, on and on, I'm very, very proud of these guys, the 99 team and the 1 team. We've been working very hard since Monday, to prepare for Kansas, because I know that Kansas has been a roller coaster for me. Last year I was strong here. In the spring I was very bad here. So we put in the work, and it's showing so far. So very, very proud of these guys.
As you look at this round, Kansas, Talladega, and then the Roval at Charlotte, how would you describe it for you in this team?
Very similar to the 4th round, in my opinion. You have a road course in there. You have a real super speedway, which Atlanta is kind of like a hybrid. And then you have Kansas, which is more of a normal crazy mile and a half, because we're going to be running inches from the wall, which that's similar to me in Bristol, like normal Bristol. But so far the car has been way better and faster than Bristol, so I'm happy with that.
Sounds like this driver is optimistic.
Hey, Kim, tell us about the wind. Just looking at the pit stand there in the background and listening to your mic, is it picking up?
Yeah, I would say it's picking up. You would say the wind's picking up, right, Daniel?
It's picking up. It feels so nice. A little bit ago, I had my suit open here because it feels very nice. But no, the wind is definitely playing a big factor. And but that's a guessing game, right? Like I was seeing some SMT right there, and there were a couple cars that were faster than me in the straightaway, and we are blaming the wind, but you never know. It's just very windy here.
Drivers like to blame anything but themselves. But to his point about a guessing game, guys, yes, Lee, we're getting these gusts. So the wind will be kind of just calm, and then all of a sudden you'll get these big bursts that come across. So definitely makes an additional challenge for these drivers as they take on this second round of qualifying.
And with that shot at the drivers, Kim will get her union check from the crew chiefs right there. Drivers blame anything else. I like that. Well done, Kim. That's great reporting.
It's only the 4th time for Daniel Suarez to start in the top 10 this year and his first on an oval. So when he's got to step up and deliver, he's doing it nicely. Here's Michael McDowell, Front Row Motorsports Ford. Let's go. He's in the green nice and early, Jeff.
Yeah, good lap so far by McDowell. See, this team, you know, Michael's leaving at the end of the season, the crew chief's leaving at the end of the season, and that makes a very tense time within the team, and continue to bring performance is impressive.
But to your point, you mentioned that Gilliland's weak point, which is Mike McDowell's teammate, is qualifying. I don't see that on the 34. McDowell in this 34 car has found a way to just have the grip, the pace that Michael needs.
5-time pole sitter this year, Michael McDowell.
Yeah, that's hard if you're the teammate to say, we should work on qualifying as an organization.
Another Stuart Haas Ford on track. This is Ryan Preece. We're working our way through the order. Bubba Wallace, Logano, Cindric, Briscoe, Blaney, Bell, and Larson to come to cap off this second group before we go into the final phase of qualifying.
Good run by Preece last street at Bristol. You see, he just doesn't trust his car. He entered turn one, I don't know, 2.5, 3 car widths away from the wall. Just doesn't have the confidence to lay it up there, immediately get into the corner. It's just hard to make pace to the center of the corner when you have to do it.
Yeah, slowest car of the group.
So he made a good run at Bristol. This man here, Bubba Wallace, had a good run at Bristol last weekend. He was in the mix. He qualified well. He was running towards the front. He had a good night.
Man, that thing was committed to the top.
Not quite Darlington committed when he put it on the valve.
Yeah.
But it wasn't far off.
And he's a couple feet above that pavement seam, even on entry. Now, he turns down to it here in the middle, but he's already found the grip in the car.
Green to the line for Bubba Wallace. It jumps to P2. Nicely done. There's some fast cars to come, so we'll see how that time stands. But it's still Kyle Busch who sets the pace with the fastest time of the day on top. Here's Joey Logano.
Here come all the playoff guys. Joey Logano did not show a ton of speed in practice as far as one lap, but if you look at his average speed, certainly in my eyes, one of the best cars, and so far, pretty fast out of the back straightaway.
Well, won the first race of the first round, trying to match the beat here this weekend. This will be a great start.
He told Kim earlier, qualifying here can be sketchy, to be honest, but have a look at that. Quickest time of the day so far, 30.132. Logano to the top.
So as fast as that is, will it lock him into the top 5? There's so many good teams that are let to go. This being one of them. Austin Cindric, one of the best qualifiers in this sport, in my opinion.
I like Logano and Busch to be locked in. A 13 and a 15, I think, gets you there. I'm not sure about Wallace's 29.
It's right on the line for Austin Cindric. Look at it. It was green. It's gone to the red. 5,000, 7,000. There's nothing in it. It's back to green. Can he push his way in there and push Martin Truex Jr. out? Yes is the answer. But that's going to be a delicate position to be in, with the likes of Briscoe, Blaney, Bell, and Larson to come. Here's Chase.
Big lap for Chase Briscoe. Struggled in practice. Did not have pace.
Told Kim earlier he's putting everything else out of his mind. The birth of the twins. Impending, I should say. Thinking about wife Marissa. There's lots going on. Change of the pit crew. But he's doing what he does best at the moment. He's a 1/10 of a second up on Austin Cindric.
That's a huge lap. It's not going to be the pole or anything like that. I don't even know it's going to make him in the top 5. It's going to be close. But with what they had in practice versus that lap, that is what I talked about earlier. When you're struggling in these playoffs, you got to find a way to answer. You got to find a way to take a bad situation and make it good. Huge lap for that team.
To go P3, and he guarantees himself a spot in the top 5. What about this man, the reigning series champion,
Ryan Blaney. He's had some bad luck, like Watkins Glen you can point to most recently, but he's with a shot to defend that NASCAR Cup Series title. And here is the Worth Ford for Team Penske. All green, looking good. And Ryan Blaney goes to position number 3. Leapfrogs Chase Briscoe.
And with 2 to go, that will assure the 12 team another chance. He'll run again in the second round. Now Bell and Larson.
Trying to get 3 poles in a row at this racetrack. Now, that's not going to be determined with this run for Christopher Bell, but he can give himself a shot at it.
How quiet his hands are. That's a lot of throttle. What do you think? We're looking at a sub 30-second lap here.
Wow. Wow. Christopher Bell to the line.
Going down.
Bubba Wallace knows he's out and Bell to the top with almost an even 30-second lap.
Good lap.
And now that puts Chase Briscoe on the bubble. Kyle Busch will be the only non-playoff driver from this second group as the final driver is on track, the number 1 ranked driver coming into this round of 12. Last weekend's winner, Kyle Larson.
Yeah, and in the red, I mean, it's taken an unbelievable lap. Takes a 21, but I would have thought the 5 would have been a little closer.
Chase Briscoe is going to lock himself into the top 5. He does. 6 for Larson. So Briscoe, yes, the team will just be telling him, you're in. You've done it. Well done. And so just 1 non-playoff driver per group. Ty Gibbs from Group 1, Kyle Busch from Group 2. Well, let's hear from the man himself. Here he is, his type.
Yeah, Lee, you mentioned 2 non-playoff drivers making it. Ty Gibbs was the guy in the first round. What's it going to take to make the pole here as we look into the second round?
Yeah, definitely got to pick it up. But, I feel like we're really fast. We got a good Monster Energy Toyota Camry. So we're definitely really close. And hopefully go get this pole. I feel like my car's handling really well. And hopefully make the right adjustments. I think we will. And go out there and get it.
What makes Kansas unique to other mile and a halves?
I think it's just big enough where you can pass and you can race. And I feel like it's a great racing track. There's multiple different lines, and I think that's what makes it really fun. I mean, some of these places are really narrow. It's really hard to pass and really hard to get by people. So this place is great. I've always loved this track. It's a really special track, and it's a fun place.
I know you guys wish you were still in the playoffs, but as you look at the next 7 races, what are you hoping to accomplish before the end of 2024?
Well, there's 7 of them, so I'd like to win all 7. But I feel like we're solid of these tracks coming up, and we're going to try to make the best of it. We've got a good piece this weekend. We'll hopefully go out there and win it.
We'll see what Ty can do when qualifying resumes for the top 10. So we come into tomorrow with a lot of excitement when you look at the last time the NASCAR Cup Series was here at Kansas.
A win's a win, but there's different ways to win, and winning by an inch, it's different feelings for sure. You guys got your money's worth today. I'm just proud to be a part of the show. That race from start to finish was amazing. That whole last stage with the wrecks, cautions, and then fuel strategy was wild.
So your hands being right up top here. Back on the chair.
It sucks to be that close. We really needed that.
Like it did.
There was so much uncertainty until I got the backstretch. I was way more elated and excited because I just didn't know if I won or not.
Just to put that into perspective, in the men's 100 meters in Paris at the Summer Olympics this year, the margin of victory was 5/1000ths of a second, and that was the closest 100-meter men's final in Olympic history. That race this spring was 1,000th of a second between Chris Buescher and the winner, Kyle Larson. Let's hear from another Kyle. Here's Kyle Busch.
Yeah, Kyle Busch, part of that second group. Move on to the final round, though. How hard is it to put together a perfect lap at Kansas?
Yes.
It's not that hard, but just being able to get the car perfect is probably the hardest part, and having the right balance. I mean, it's so close and so technical, and everything is so much is tight that having the perfect balance will be able to provide you with a really good lap. So our car was really good. The MGM Camaro, Benton MGM Camaro, was fast right there and shocked me on the speed that it ran, but pleasantly surprised by that to move us on to the next round.
You've talked often about how at the beginning of your career, something about Kansas just didn't click, and I think it was like 2014. You said the light bulb went on. For a driver, what's that light bulb here?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. Just the biggest thing is building confidence in a place, but yet having a good race car to be able to do that with. So always swatting flies and coming here and not having a good driving car or just feeling like you're lost, it definitely makes it challenging.
As you look at the next set of races, I know the goal is to win and keep that winning streak, that consecutive winning streak continuous. What's the best opportunity over the next 7 weeks?
I would say here in Vegas, possibly Talladega. There's some good races. The Roval have been pretty good the last few years, but it's just about putting it all together and having a great race and having good pit stops, good restarts, all that stuff. It comes together. So our biggest thing right now is just trying to compete against the rest of these top dogs that are in the playoffs that have really, really fast race cars that we're going up against. That they're racing for a championship or racing for a win. So it's going to be hard no matter what. That's what this sport is. But we're going to give them a fight and give it hell.
And it was great to hear Kim ask Kyle about that win, right? And if it's going to continue that would be 20 years of at least one victory per season. Let's not forget. Wasn't that long ago? It was at Daytona. He chased Harrison Burton to the line, and the following week he chased Briscoe to the line in Darlington. He could have had 2 wins on the year.
I wanted to see what racetrack he thought was his best chance because I wasn't sure that any of them were really bad. I think Kyle could win everywhere we go. Maybe not the equipment every time, but I don't know, Jeff. Is there a track that you don't think he has a chance?
We talked about RCR. They stepped their game up, and we talked about he having those chances to win. We'll go back and think about Austin Dillon in Richmond.
Yeah.
Dominated that race toward the end. That last third of that race had the best race car. So they're making positive adjustments. Kyle Busch talked a lot right there about needing fast race cars. RCR is getting better. You can see right here, Group A, Group B. A lot of yellow playoff drivers going to start in front of this race.
And the 2 in white, Ty Gibson, the man we just heard from, the only non-playoff drivers. They're racing with one thing in mind. They don't think about points. They're going out for the big W tomorrow, so we'll see how that shapes up when qualifying resumes. They're starting to roll the cars out there now, and the first 5 cars are already in line as we get almost set for the final phase of qualifying here at Kansas Speedway on a beautiful day in the heartland. There's a breeze. Maybe you could call it a wind sometimes, gusts of wind. But it's a beautiful sunny day here before we get going again. Let's hear from the reigning series champion.
Yeah, that would be Ryan Blaney. We know the emphasis put on qualifying and starting in the top 10, not only stage points, but restarts here at Kansas are crazy. How big of a difference is it restarting in the top 10 versus outside the top 10?
Yeah, it's definitely less wild. It still is, though. I mean, if you're restarting, 5th to 10th is pretty crazy. You have to protect or be aggressive, but you restart mid-20s, it's a hornet's nest. So, but overall, yeah, pretty decent day. Feel like Fort Mustang's pretty good. Appreciate the Worth Group for being on our car again 2 weeks in a row, and qualifying lap here is usually don't qualify very good here, but luckily we were able to have a good lap. I was really happy with my car in practice, like long run. I felt pretty good, so. It's definitely more beneficial, a long-run car, when you qualify up towards the front, too. You don't have to pass as many guys, and you can use that advantage a little bit better. So, yeah, it's a wild restart track, but that's what makes it exciting, and it's nice that we had a good lap. Hopefully we can get a little better here in the second round.
As you look at these 3 races, Kansas, Talladega, Roval, rank them best to not as best for you in this team.
I love all of them.
There you go. Excited to see what Ryan Blaney can do in the round of 12.
That's the right answer, right, Steve? As a champion,
You got it. Even if you're just trying to convince yourself, no reason to put any doubt in there.
Sometimes you have to fake it.
Yeah.
Is that you this afternoon playing pickleball?
Oh yeah, that's where Dick's going to be.
You got Xfinity race. You're going to play some pickleball?
I can't with my dodgy knee. Your what? My dodgy knee. Once I
You
get
have to
that.
translate that for us. What is a dodgy?
Bad knee.
Okay, there you go. That's all I was looking for.
Once,
Yeah.
once,
Oh,
once,
they had a Hemi in that thing.
yeah, right. Once I get that fixed in November, I'll be good to go back out on the pickleball court. So we're talking playoffs, and we're now getting into the meat of it, aren't we? After the round of 16, we've determined the round of 12, and we're almost ready to go.
Alrighty, so again, the 10 drivers that will re-qualify in a shot at the pole going to be Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell, Joey Logano, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, and Daniel Suarez. Now, the order you see on screen is not the order in which they will qualify. That is a numerical order. They will qualify in descending order of how they finished from Group A and Group B. So 5th through 1st from Group A, and then 5th through 1st lineup for the top 10 tomorrow. Only the top driver from each group, time-wise, in this final round will be on the front row, with the fastest time overall being the pole. And then the rest of the lineup will be Group A on the outside lane. Group B will start on the inside lane for tomorrow's race. We'll get into that qualifying single car here shortly. We'll take our final break while we're waiting on that. Thanks for listening live here on KRC to Cup Series practice and qualifying at Kansas.
It's been national and international headlines about the effects of Hurricane Helene. And if you are in a position and would like to help those affected by Helene, you can go to redcross.org or text Helene to 90999. And for everybody in the states, in the Gulf states, in the panhandle of Florida, and in the Carolinas, I mean, it was very far and wide reaching, and the impact has affected millions and millions of people. And for you two guys, I mean, we used to live down the road from each other in the Charlotte area. North Carolina has been heavily hit. And so I know that, you know, it's happened in your backyard. And our thoughts are with everybody affected. And again, folks, if you're in a position where you can make a donation and you are able to help, head to redcross.org or text Helene to 90999. All right, qualifying, final round. Let's go. The top 5 from each of the groups. They're about to fight it out. And this man here is motivated to shake off Bristol. He did the best he could. It wasn't what they wanted. Tyler Reddick, the regular season champ, wants to be a NASCAR Cup Series champion, and this weekend will form part of what that picture looks like, and so too will this qualifying.
Just how close competition is. Qualifying on the front of pit stall 1 to the camera at a track where you will be changing tires almost every yellow. It's going to be a huge advantage if you can have that pit stall. And this team needs to get some positive momentum. Only 2 top 10s in the last 5 races. You're going to play with that gas just a little bit. Car's going to drive differently from this run to the last run.
All right, time's posted. 30.2 for Tyler Reddick. Keep in mind, Christopher Bell's 30.04. That'll give you some comparison. Here's Daniel Suarez. He told Kim that he was doing everything that he had to. But it's been a positive start to this Kansas weekend. Shepard's close. 500s, 600s.
You see his hands? Just like his car is just a little tighter than he wants it to be. It's not able to have the pace. So Reddick picked up from when he ran the first run.
So the 2311 Toyota sets the pace over the Trackhouse Chevy. Suarez did what he could. Just over a 1/10 of a second off. Here's Denny Hamlin. After the, if you want to do it in air quotes, the scare
of the opening round of the playoffs. It's now back to regular business for the driver of the FedEx Toyota. This will already be a much better start than round one. Remember, he was the playoff driver with engine issues at Atlanta. Had to start at the back. Here he is, battling for a spot somewhere inside the top 10. I think we could so easily have been talking about Hamlin on the outside looking in, no longer in the round of 12. It's not the case. He's in, he's got a shot, but he won't be able to match fellow Toyota driver Reddick. Tyler stays on top. You mentioned it, Jeff. Reddick picking up his speed. And remember, this is slowest to fastest yet. Reddick, who was fifth out of this group, has now surpassed two other drivers. Well, Ty Gibbs, you heard his interview. We really liked the car. Thought they might have to make an adjustment or two. Sounded confident, like he knew what the car needed.
And nothing to lose. They're out of the playoffs. Now just go try to win races at good speed through the middle and exit of two.
Well, I like what this car looks like, too. It gains pace on exit. Like he's not overdriving the entry, really letting the car settle.
It's not going to be by much, but it's going to be enough. Ty Gibbs on top. He did what he said he was going to.
I don't think there's enough appreciation for the job Ty Gibbs has done in his short Cup Series.
Yeah, 80 starts, right? We always say around 100's a magical number.
Magical number for that first week, yeah. Here's William Byron. He was pretty swift in the opening phase of qualifying.
One, obviously there's a reason, something in the car that William thought he had to be there to hurt the exit speed. See if he has to do the same down here. That looked a little bit more normal. Result the same, though.
It's going away. He's on the wrong side of it here. A tenth and a half off.
Almost down the grass.
Stay in that prime spot for now.
That Group B, though, had so much raw speed. I don't know if I can't imagine the track's getting better, right? I mean, the wind's picking up, the sun's up in the sky. You know, my racing sense would say it should be slowing down, but that second group, Jeff, just overall had more speed.
Yeah, well, here they're getting ready to roll. Kim?
And currently, Tyler Reddick sits row number 2 after that qualifying effort. Early in today's media session, you had talked about how the first round was not good for this team. Based on what we've seen here today from you and the team, do you feel like you've turned a page and you're already on a better foot starting this round?
I'm not sure. Practice was a bit of a struggle again for us, but I thought we made some good adjustments. And honestly, we were going to have to go quite a ways. I felt like to get the pace out of it, we needed to in qualifying. And honestly, it wasn't the greatest lap in round one for us, but we had some good fortune. For others, misfortune with the 9 engine issue. So that allowed us to snake in to round 2, and then from there, I maybe could have ran a 15 if I had it hit everything perfect. But to go from being where we were in practice to barely making it into round 2 to being second in Group A, I'll definitely take it.
With the record that 2311 has here and how good this team is at Kansas Speedway, does that make it easier to determine what you need out of the car and what you need to do on the racetrack to win?
To some extent, this car is going to drive a little different with the right side shark fin. But it's still Kansas. The tire, we've got a good bit of experience on it now. And we were really good at Michigan and Charlotte early in the year. So I know that if we keep working on this balance, I think we can wake this DraftKings Camry up. And once we do, we'll have some really solid pace.
I think this is an important weekend for Tyler Reddick. When you think about Kansas right on the top, his name continues to come up in the conversations. He won at Talladega, so of course he can do it, and he's great at the road courses, so came into Roval. So I don't know if this race is the key moment for Reddick as far as getting out of the round of 12, but much like last week for Larson's name to then be at the top of the conversation about Championship 4 and momentum and all of those conversations. For Reddick, I think he doesn't have to win here, but he has to contend. I want him up there in the battle.
Well, I come here as a driver thinking I need a really good weekend this weekend because the next 2 races after this are on Talladega. My chances are pretty high of getting a wreck. And then I got the Roval. And that's 2 incredibly difficult racetracks. So the pressure starts right now because now you got the 12 best. Competition is going to be the best and hardest it's ever been. And this round of racetracks is exceptionally challenging.
Man on track here in the Mahindra Tractors Ford, Chase Briscoe. Think about his journey to this point.
got caught up in that crash with Kyle Larson in Atlanta and had to be playing catch up. He said, "Don't worry, we're good. We're in good shape." And the last 2 races, he did. He showed his resilience and his speed and his determination, and that was emblematic of his qualifying run. In the first round, he hung tough. He got that 5th and final position and withstood the challenge from Kyle Larson. That's what puts him here in this final phase of qualifying.
At a big moment in 1 and 2. I couldn't tell what the handling issue was. I could just tell that the speed went away from the race car. He almost got the wall. You know, he almost turned into survival mode rather than make a lap.
And Briscoe will be pushed down the order with each and every car that comes on out. 4 to go. And let's get to it. Here's Ryan Blaney.
I think this driver is certainly one to watch tomorrow. Look, he spoke about it. His long run pace in practice was right there where it needed to be. Not the speed through the center of 1 and 2 that Ty Gibbs has, but going in this race tomorrow, this is my favorite to win it.
Clock says red by just over 1/10 of a second. And that margin's growing.
Well, you ask yourself, this group had more speed when it was their turn, but did those faster laps hurt the Goodyear tires more? Did it take some more life out of it? Or was it, these tracks are very temperamental. Was it a little bit of cloud cover or track temperature? Why did this group stand out? So far, no one has been able to top Gibbs.
Is Kyle Busch. It's a non-playoff driver that has the provisional pole. The only other non-playoff driver is on track right now.
Little wiggle in turn 1.
Kyle Busch, he got in the corner with a lot of speed, just wasn't able to continue that speed through the corner. What I've learned comparing everyone to Ty Gibbs is Gibbs really got through the middle of 1 and 2, because that's where everybody starts to flash into the red.
This is going to be super close.
Good lap.
Really good lap from Kyle Busch.
How about the non-playoff drivers?
I know, holding down the provisional front row. Joey Logano and the Shell Pennzoil Ford on track.
This car in the first round of qualifying wasn't easy to drive, but it looked easy. Right, the car just went everywhere Logano wanted it to go. We'll see if it has that same look here. And it still started going the wrong way.
10th and a half out. And it's trending the wrong way for Joey, as he puts himself on the board with one driver to go. One car left on track.
Well, if your guy's Blaney, looked at times, perhaps underappreciated at times, but finds a way in the moment to make it happen.
In the green nice and early for the Ream Toyota of Christopher Bell. It's flipped the other way. It's in the red, but not by much. Trying for 3 consecutive pole positions here at Kansas Speedway.
It's going to be close.
It's coming back. It's in the green. Nothing in it. You're talking hundredths of a second.
He's got it.
Christopher.
He's got it.
Does he get that? He sure does. 3 in a row. For Christopher Bell. The last to do that here at Kansas was Kevin Harvick. So Bell, the number 2 seeded driver coming into this round of 12, gives himself the best possible opportunity to win nice and early.
Christopher Bell, what a great lap.
Copy that. Good job, fella.
Consistently qualifies in the front on a weekly basis. But now, you got to go and you got to execute in this race. And this is one of the most difficult races of the year.
Fantastic effort. Final car to come out on track and grabs the pole. And that's his second of this season. Only guy to get 2 top 5s in the first round of the playoffs. Just continues his quiet but strong and forceful path through these 2024 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. We met with all 16 playoff drivers before they started, and there was something about Bell, his confidence, and it wasn't arrogance. It was, he just told us, what did he say? I like every part of our team. Pit crew, chassis, what the engineering group's doing, his relationship with his crew chief, his spotter. You know, he wasn't bragging. He just didn't really have a glaring weakness he thought he could point out.
So we're a good team. All round, we're a good team.
Sure not qualifying. His qualifying is unbelievable. Man, let's join Kim.
Yeah, and Kyle Busch walking by gives him a nice on that qualifying effort. Christopher Bell, third time in a row, he'll lead the field to green at Kansas. What kind of statement did you make with that lap to the rest of the playoff field?
I'll tell you what, it's the people that work on this race car that made the statement. And today we showed up with probably our best Kansas car we've ever had. It's always been a great track for us to qualify at, and it seems like whenever we go race, we're always like that. I don't know, third to seventh range, and today it was different. It felt really, really good in practice. I felt really comfortable driving the car, and then they were able to duplicate the qualifying balance.
You gave accolades to the team about how good the car was. Tomorrow, behind the wheel, what do you have to do as a driver to keep that track position from start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, the tough thing about Kansas is just managing the balance. This place, with these cars, it swings really, really bad. You'll start off really comfortable, and depending on how your car is, you might go really tight, you might go really loose. Typically, the fast lane is up top, but then you have to really adjust your line to what your balance is doing. So I got to drive a little bit better here tomorrow than I have at the previous Kansas races, but I definitely have the car to do it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Great job by Christopher Bell and this team to lead the field to green in tomorrow's race.
Awesome performance, and reminding you of what's coming up not only tomorrow but today.
Yep, so that'll prelude me into telling you guys watching right now what our streams are for the rest of the weekend. So, as far as today, we still have NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage at 4 p.m. Eastern. Live flag-to-flag coverage for you right here on KRC, and obviously that will be on the CW as well. Tomorrow's NASCAR Cup Series stream will begin at 2:30 p.m. Eastern with our pre-race coverage, and that will be taking place on the USA Network. Wondering where you can watch that visually. Congratulations to Christopher Bell for qualifying on the pole here today at the Kansas Speedway. The top 10, I guess, in our order, but Christopher Bell on the pole for this race, fastest from Group B, and obviously fastest overall. 30.111 was his lap time, average speed of 179.336 miles per hour. He had a faster lap in round one. That was the fastest lap overall there, and doubles down with the fastest lap in round two as well. So congratulations to Christopher. I will see you guys in about an hour from now for our full NASCAR Xfinity Series race coverage. Be sure to hit the like button on the stream if you haven't yet. Subscribe for more NASCAR content on the daily. We did get to our goal of 50 likes, so greatly appreciate that. Still be sure to hit the like button if you haven't yet. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in throughout this one. Trying to save my voice for the Xfinity race later, so if you were wondering why I wasn't talking as much as I usually do, not necessarily the voice side of things, but I have a sore on my lip. So I was trying to do my best to not talk as much because it was kind of hurting at the end of the truck race yesterday. I knew I had 2 streams to come here today, so that is why I wasn't talking much during this, but I will be doing plenty more commentary during the Xfinity race as usual later today. So hope to see you then. Thanks, everybody, and see you in about another hour.